Chris John here for WhereDoesGodzillaPoop.com, and today we're taking a look at Home, which is a one-person, sort of one-man made indie horror game by this guy Benjamin Rivers. The sort of front page of the screen tells you that. It, as you see there, it describes itself as a horror game, but don't sort of come in here expecting a survival horror thing with combat and with jump scares and whatnot. This isn't that. It's more of a kind of suspenseful, it's a suspenseful kind of adventure game with some branching paths in there. So if you kind of adjust your expectations from the get-go, that's kind of something that I recommend. I'm going to start over here. I'm playing through for my second time here. It tells you can put an hour and a half into it to finish it in a single setting. I kind of thought it's a little bit less than that. It's around about an hour. There is kind of replayability involved here, in terms of having a few branching paths that influence where the story goes and what your ending might be. But we're not going to reach that point in the story as we're playing here, and I don't want to spoil too much. But the way things change, it kind of depends how you interpret what's happening, as opposed to the actual scenarios that are in the game. So as you see here, you wake up with a headache in a dark room, and you don't know where you are. And as you see, it kind of uses that indie game standby of the sort of 2D pixel art, which is kind of really overdone in games of this type, but it kind of works here. It works because, first of all, I think the sort of not so sophisticated pixel art nature kind of conflicts with the darkness of the story, but also it works specifically well on a phone, as opposed to on PC, where this game first came out last year, because it kind of feels like a Game Gear game or a Lynx game, where you had this same effect of having a really big sort of central character sprite and then confined environments, because they kind of wanted to show off the big chunky sprite and the animation involved, as opposed to the area that you could see around you, which was confined by the screen real estate anyway. So it has a special kind of added effect on an iPhone small screen than it would on a big computer monitor. So just interacting, you can walk left, you can walk right, you can look up. As I said, there's no combat involved here, and if you have an item in your inventory and you need to use it, you will just use it automatically. That's not really the point. You're just kind of moving through the world here and figuring out what's happened. So you can double tap on items to sort of take a look, and there's a dead body on the floor already. And yeah, as I say, really, I'm not going to play too much here, just to sort of show what's happening, because you certainly don't want to spoil anything, because really there's not much in the way of gameplay. Even the parts where there are puzzles, they're kind of limited to perhaps using an item more than once, rather than just using it once. A handle you might need to turn needs to be turned 3 times instead of 1 time. It hardly kind of stretches the brain or pushes you in any way like that. It's purely just go through and explore and investigate the story, and kind of figure out what's happening. So I do like the sort of opening door animations and going down the stairs as well. I think that those sort of animations will be instantly familiar if you've played like the Biohazard games, Resident Evil, and that kind of thing. So your first hint, you find out about your wife, so there's a little bit extra going on here, and a little hint of the troubles you're having with her. And just one, I suppose, one little thing here. So this is this is the kind of thing, or an early taste of the kind of situation. That you come across a mouse. Do you free the mouse or do you leave it there? Which kind of, even though I've freed it before, so I'm not going to free it here. And even though not much happens, it kind of transforms, I think, the character that you're playing as in your mind, so that then, it's up to you to interpret things that happen later on. And later on in the game, it's going to be very, very blunt in terms of asking you direct questions of, how you feel about what's happened, and make your own conclusions as to what's going on in the story here. As opposed to being directly told. So there is, it is interesting in that regard. There's a big emphasis on you to think and to kind of draw your own conclusions on what's happening here. I'll walk along here. I'm going to give you one spoiler to one kind of very basic puzzle earlier on, because it can make you a little bit frustrated, because it's obviously not too obvious. Oh, right, okay. Well, sometimes, I think before when I played this, when I looked at the picture, it would just say, oh, it's a picture of two people, rather than there seemed to be a switch behind it. But sometimes it is that. You look at a picture once, it'll say, oh, hey, it's a picture, and then you look at it again, and oh, hey, there's a switch behind it. So you press the switch, and that will help you open a door further down. And the mouse is dead. Ooh, I wonder what happens if you look at the mouse down. Okay, so the cat we saw before had gone to it. Yeah, so, you just heard a creepy noise. That is as scary, quote-unquote, as it gets. So there might be sort of a far-off clank and bang and whatnot, but there's certainly nothing in the way of actual tension. I took this photo before, so I figured I'm just going to leave it. And really, there's no other characters in this game that you directly interact with. Certainly, as far as I know, the first time that I played through it, it is literally, this guy and him and this world, and what he thinks is being relayed to you in a kind of unreliable narrator sense, and it's up to you to kind of draw your own conclusions and think about what's happening. Oh, scary. Oh yeah, so there you go. The door's taped up here, but if you interact twice, you can open the door, and that's the sum total of everything that you have to do in terms of puzzles. So if you're the kind of person that thinks, oh, my games have to have gameplay in them, then you're going to be disappointed. There's nothing mechanical about this game at all. But in terms of a narrative, it's a decent sort of page-turning, whodunit kind of thing. It's not the most creative story in the world. I kind of drew my own conclusions the first time I played it very, very early on. But, the way you behave might be different, and the second time I play this, I might feel differently about it. Certainly I'm going to deliberately do the opposite of everything that I did before, just to kind of see how things change. And yeah, it's interesting. I would say it's worth your time. It's worth an hour and $3, 250 yen, which is the same as it was on PC. It's this kind of sort of interactive fiction stuff I enjoy. It's not to everyone's tastes, but it does what it does quite well, and even though it might be a simple story and simply executed, I had fun getting to the ending. So for more on Home, including a full written review later on, please do check out wheredoesgodzillapoop.com. My name's Chris Charlton. Thanks for watching. Bye.